Hello and welcome, everyone! Did you hear about the baker who took a second job as a pizza chef? They really needed the dough. Today we are making a very simple and fast pizza dough. This recipe takes only about 30 minutes to prepare, so it is a great option when you're craving pizza. Today's recipe can be entirely prepared and kneaded by hand, but as always, if you have a stand mixer, this is the perfect opportunity or excuse to use it. Another great tool to combine with this recipe is a pizza stone. However, if you do not have a pizza stone, don't worry, you can also use a baking sheet. For today's recipe, you will need 2 cups of flour, separated. All-purpose or bread flour works best. 3 tablespoons of oil. I'm using olive oil. 2/3 of a cup of 120 to 130 degree Fahrenheit water. 1 envelope or 2½ teaspoons of instant rise or rapid rise yeast. 1½ teaspoons of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a bit of semolina flour or cornmeal, and finally you'll want your favorite toppings and some pizza sauce. If you're using a pizza stone, be sure to put it in the oven before you preheat the oven. Make sure to allow it to get nice and hot before cooking your pizza. I like to allow my pizza stone to heat up for 30 to 45 minutes. You can use whatever toppings you like on your pizza. Just be careful not to overload the dough, or you will end up with a soggy mess. I personally like to use pizza mozzarella that has a slightly higher moisture content of about 50%. This is because it melts nicely and is extra stringy. First things first, preheat your oven and baking pan or pizza stone to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, we are going to add our dry ingredients to a mixing bowl or the bowl of a stand mixer. Pour in 1 cup of the flour, the yeast, the sugar, and the salt. Then mix well. Next, pour in the very warm water and the oil and mix everything together until it becomes cohesive. When that is done, we can slowly begin to add more flour. The key here is that you only want to add just enough flour to make it workable, while still leaving it somewhat sticky. A high hydration dough will be more tender and will rise more than one with too much flour added. Once the dough has pulled together into a somewhat sticky but workable ball, begin to knead it. This will take roughly 4 to 6 minutes depending on the vigor of your kneading. If you're using a stand mixer, 4 minutes on low should be sufficient. After the kneading, set the dough aside in a lightly oiled bowl to rise for 10 minutes. Be sure to cover it with plastic wrap. While the dough is rising, I like to make some very simple pizza sauce in the microwave. I like to use pureed Roma tomatoes, but any canned or jarred tomatoes will work. Next, I add a couple dashes of Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, and some dried spices, usually an Italian seasoning blend. Then I cover the bowl with some paper towel to save some mess in the microwave, and microwave it for 4 minutes, stirring and checking it every 1 to 2 minutes. I like the sauce to be fairly thick, so that it doesn't make the pizza crust too soggy. Once the sauce is done, I like to toss it in a freezer-safe container and put it into the freezer so that it can cool off a bit before we add it to the pizza. When the pizza dough has finished rising, move it to a large work surface and begin flattening it out. I like to press it into a fairly circular shape with my fingers and then roll it out to be about 9 inches in diameter for a thick crust pizza or 12 inches in diameter for a thinner crust. Next, I like to spread some of the semolina or cornmeal on my pizza peel and transfer the dough to it. If you don't have a peel, you can get creative with the back of a baking sheet. The semolina will help prevent the dough from sticking to the peel and to the cooking surface. Now carefully spread your sauce over the dough, making sure to leave about 1 inch unsauced around the edge. Then you can add your toppings. I put down my cheese first. Once the cheese has been added in a thin layer, I roll the edge of the crust. This is to make sure that nothing spills over the edge during cooking. Then I add the rest of my toppings to the pizza. I'm using Kalamata olives, roasted red peppers, pizza pepperoni, torn prosciutto, and yes, I am one of those people, pineapple. Finally, we're going to pop the pizza onto the stone or pan in the oven. Be very careful. Depending on the thickness of your crust, it will take between 10 and 13 minutes to cook. The pizza is done when the cheese has melted and the bottom is nice and browned. This pizza dough is super simple, and in my opinion, once you've made it a couple times, you'll never want to go back to frozen pizzas again. The absolute best part about homemade pizza, of course, is that you can put whatever you want on it. And with how simple the recipe is, you can even make multiple pizzas with different toppings if need be. I hope you'll give this recipe a try, and be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.